Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I got a nice question for Sam today. All right. How do you pick yourself up after a failure?
After failure,
Yes.
failures can be hard. They can pin you down and leave you not wanting to do that thing ever again.
I've seen many fail and never really return.
Yeah, I guess it would really depend on how big of a failure it is, because I think failures can vary. They can be everyday failures where they just get you down for a bit. They're more frustrating.
Mm,
Then there can be, big failures on something that you care about, something that you've worked on for a really long time, where you've had some serious emotional investment in it and some expectations that haven't been met, and they can be crushing. I know how much they hurt.
yeah,
They just
exactly.
pin you down and they just kind of drag you along the floor. And there's if there was pressure on you to perform in a certain way and you don't, man, you just feel like the world's eyes are just staring at you.
Imaginary
And then
audience.
yeah, and then it can be so hard to shake. So I'll answer this question based off big failures.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a good
something that
good
you've
way.
that you've really invested yourself in and something that's failed. For me, my first thing I do when something has not gone my way, or I haven't won, or I haven't got what I achieved or got what I intended to achieve in the first place, is reflecting on the good parts and the bad parts about it. Because there will be good parts. There will be bits that you did really well. There's also going to be parts that, because you failed, obviously you didn't do very well. Other people have done better than you, or that you potentially could have done better. So having an actual list of the good bits and the bad bits is a way for me to actually reflect on the whole thing in general. Because once you're down in the dirt, man, like that's all you see. Like
Mm,
it can be so hard to see the things that you've gained from it if all that's at the front of your mind is just all the bits that just went terribly. So, and for me, I guess some people I think would struggle documenting that, or even just thinking about that stuff because it's painful.
yeah, it's
It
hard
can really,
to bring it up and like putting pen to paper makes it can almost make you relive that failure.
yeah, man. Like it's the only real true way of putting yourself back in that moment where you lost. And I know for me, like it's for some things, it's taken me a long time before I've had I guess the awareness to be like, all right, man, like this has been eating away at me for a long time. I just got to figure out what happened. And that can be like, it can be a week, a month, months later down the track when finally you're up to the point where you're like, I think I can start to deal with this now. But you have to be able to do that at a point when you're ready. Like, yeah, you should probably try and do it as quick as you can, but there are going to be times when just reflecting on that thing is going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot, and it's just going to send you down in a negative spiral again. So
Yeah,
sometimes I think time can be good, take its toll, but eventually you got to get down to the nitty gritty of the good bits and the bad bits.
and
Um,
how do you reflect like on this? What do you do? Do you just think in your head? Do you write it down? Do you say it? Do you?
so for me, the first little step is I won't talk about these things with anyone for a while. I'll just avoid the conversation. I'll just won't bring it up. I just people bring it up and just give like a little kind of surface answer, like, oh yeah, well, all right, didn't go as well as I would have liked, and you kind of just leave it alone. But the first step for me is usually just actually breaking down the whole thing in a conversation with someone, and you don't really know when that's going to come. You don't really know when deep inside yourself you're going to be able to say, "Yep, I guess I'm now ready to talk about this." And once you get those thoughts vocalized out of you, I think then you can write them down a bit easier. But that can be hard. And I mean, if you never really have that prompting thing, or everyone just ignores it because they're worried that it's going to make you feel shit, then you never really get that chance. So look, either talking about it with someone or writing it down first, I think could be done. It doesn't really matter which way. That one is going to prompt the other. And finding out which one works better for you, I think would be really important.
Well said.
Mm.
What
In
else?
terms of the bad, because if you failed at something, the main things you're going to think about is what you did wrong. And I think it's really important to list what you did wrong. Get all of these negative thoughts about how your performance went and put them in front of you. You know, was it the nutrition? Was it their last 2 weeks leading up? Was it their travel in between? Was it the coach not really coming through in the last, couple of months? Was it other factors you can't control? Was it not controlling your social life? There's so many things that it can be. The thing is, you're not going to be able to pick and sieve through which parts specifically went wrong for you if you don't put them all down in front of you. Like you can tell yourself, oh, I'll just think about it. It's all good and well, but you don't get a chance to plan things out if they're just in your head. So for me, after looking at the good and the bad, writing down what went wrong, I think is probably the most crucial step of any of them. Because once you've actually identified the things that you think are where you went wrong, you can pick out the bits where you're like, okay, that could just be a bit of emotion, making me feel that way, making me feel like that went wrong, but it's not actually what went wrong. These things though, oh man, like that's totally different to what my competitors were doing. This is probably the areas that I went wrong. And then if you can find those areas, then you can find out essentially you can learn from it. If you can identify where you went wrong, then you can find ways of making it not a failure, but turning it into a win, because you grab all these losses, figure out how to improve them. And then next time you come back, you're going to have this little arsenal of even more effective tools than you had before. But you're not going to be able to get there unless you properly sieve through all this huge mountain of negative information and funnel it down to find out the key points. Because once you got those, let's say, for example, not controlling your social life, you push too hard in the last few weeks of, let's say, for just a sporting event, or number 3, you didn't keep up to the standard that you wanted to in the last few weeks because you thought you were there. You can make a plan for those things. So the next time you're there, these will be your strengths. You've seen what the negative results are like for someone who doesn't control them. And now you get the chance to put them into practice, give them a red hot go, and then go at this thing again, almost as a new person with a new backing of ways to win. And you can turn back what essentially was the things that made you, fail in the first place can become your edge to succeed over people in the next time, because they haven't had those failures. Well, they might have, but they might not have had to the same extent that's made them have to improve themselves.
Wow, I'm kind of speechless, but that was right on the money. That there, people, that's how you pick yourself up after a failure. I can't dispute anything you just said there, because I've done the exact same thing. I've read about people doing the exact same thing, and it's all ingrained in us. Like, you always, like, for example, I use a very basic term, but a little kid, like, I don't know the saying, but a little kid touches a hot stove. They've learned from that. They learned a hot stove will burn you and it'll hurt. Yeah. So now they're not going to do that again. And there we go. That's the simplest way, I think, of saying what you just said. Like, you need to understand why you failed, how you failed, and then figure out what you can do different next time. And that's how we grow. That's how everyone grows, I believe. And that's right on the money there, mate.
And if you can get yourself in that mindset of picking out what made you fail, then, I guess, or any kind of self-development book will touch on this, but then you haven't essentially failed. You only fail if you don't learn anything. And if you can figure out how to get better for the future, then hey, you haven't actually failed. All you've done is improve yourself and improve your chances of more success later on.
Spot on.
I think what's important to touch on, though, is taking the time off to actually recover after a failure. because it's good and well, you know, saying all these things and wanting to do them, but these emotions of failing are very real. You can't just shut them out. You're feeling them for a reason, because it was something that mattered to you. So you need to actually soak these things in, feel the pain, know that it was real, know that you cared about this thing. And to try and just bounce these things off and say, no, 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 I'm a force field. No, no pain can touch me. Then did you really want to succeed in that thing in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
You know, pain makes something real, and feeling that, I think, is important, because then you don't want to feel that again. And you got to let your body, your mind recover. You got to let it sieve through all these things. And like I said before, like, it'll get to a point when I think, you know, that you're a bit more ready to think about it and start to move on from it and plan for the next thing. But if you don't give yourself the chance to process everything internally first, like trying to process it externally is going to be a challenging thing.
What are like some ways you take time off? Like, you can take time off work, but you can also maybe, like, for example, I go for a walk. Like, I've gone for many walks this past year when things just haven't gone my way, and a walk is just a beautiful way to just let my mind flow and just bounce back ideas and really just be kind of like brainless and just like limitless. Like, you're numb, your body's just moving forward, but your brain is working, and it's just, that's like a good way for me to take my time off. What are some things you do?
For me, it's usually exercise. And
Mm.
I guess some of the things I've failed in have been, you know, sports. And I find doing the same sport in an easy way is a really nice way of just, I don't know, humanizing your failure. You know, you can see that, oh, I don't do this just for performance. I do it for health and because I love to do it. And just getting back into it slowly and easily, I think, is a good way to start recovering. But I guess that it doesn't translate very well in terms of, you know, job or business failures. But for me, like, there's like, man, running's always been there for me. Like running, I think for me would be like you're walking. It's just something I know I can just go and I'm just there. I can process things pretty easily, and I just don't have to worry about anybody else when I'm out there. So I think getting away from all of your usual life and just going and doing something else for a while, even if it's not what you normally do, like just do it. Break your pattern, so the same thing doesn't keep on happening. I think another really important factor with picking yourself up after failure is, well, it's celebrating. You got to celebrate the journey too. Like it, like I said, like getting away from all those negative things is really important. And I mean, one of the ways I know how to do it is celebrating. You know, even after you lose something, all you want to do is celebrate, whether or not that's to forget it or whether it's to actually acknowledge that you did a good job. It doesn't really matter in my eyes. Yeah, they're two different factors, but also you're going to have a little bit of fun either way. Like, you know, you're going to get to do something that you love, probably doing it with your friends. And I know for me, it's just going and celebrating out, having a few drinks, kind of no matter what happens. Like, it's a pattern breaker. It gets you away from that negative mindset and gives you a chance to, you know, vocalize how you feel. You know, liquid confidence is an amazing thing. It's amazing the emotions you can get out of someone with a few shots down them. But just being able to celebrate the journey just to get there and appreciating yourself, the hard work that you put in to be in that place, to then allow you to fail on you know, on at the top level, I think is really important too.
Yeah, definitely a drink and a boogie. That's
Yeah, drinking a
that's a
boogie
good remedy, for a quick
will solve a
remedy.
lot of things.
Yeah. Well, like that's been really great, man. Like, I think you had some wonderful insights there that if anyone's listening, I I almost reckon like you would have gained something from that, and that was really awesome to hear about how you pick yourself after failure. That's, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kind of
look,
lost for words. Like, when did you get so knowledgeable? When did you? What's happened to my sound, man? That was awesome.
I feel like there's I've had my fair share of failures, and I think I'm very competitive, and I don't like failing. If I if I fail at something once, there's not much chance I'll fail at it again.
Mm.
And I think sometimes my analytical brain can be too analytical sometimes, but I guess it means I build up good systems to working through what can be some pretty shit times.
Yeah, that's perfect. And on a leaving note, I think that wonderful message you said, like at the end, for anyone out there who's failed or who's failed, just remember that at least you gave it a go, and whatever that is, you gave it a go, and just celebrate that ability for you to take this on and attempt whatever you attempted, because
And man,
it's
everyone's failed.
wonderful.
Like failing is one of the most human things to do.
Yeah,
And you're only, like I said, I think this is so important. You only really fail if you fail to learn from it.
yeah.
And and that you learn more from failures than you do from winning. You know, failing gives you more chance to come back and be better than the person that won next time. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. But it's so easy
Yeah.
to lose
That's
to lose track of that.
That's like the last quote. That this one is something that I heard from my good old friend Chung, when I was studying in Amsterdam. But it's either you win or you learn, and I think I have that on my wall, and I look at that, and yeah, you win or you learn. That's how I take my life.
I
That's
agree.
that's how. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah.
Adios,
Well, it's
mate.
been a pleasure.